Walaikum salam, Ashraf, and thank you very much for having me on. It's quite an honor to be described as a champion person. I hope I live up.
It's a bit too late to even suggest that now. The fact is, your body of work suggests that, isn't it? This is not about who you are and how you speak. This is the body of work over a period of time that says you've earned the right to get a place at the front table, which is what you've done.
No, thank you. Well, it's a body of work that I think has accumulated, and like all champions, success doesn't come overnight. I don't think I've achieved success in some things yet. But yeah, you learn the basics and a lot of training, and you make some mistakes as well. And you have good coaches. Very important,
And
I think.
we'll talk about that too
Yeah.
as well. Well, if I spoke to you a few months ago, I would be talking to you as what? Researcher Media Review Network. Now it's press delete for that and replaced by what?
I am now an independent writer, and I do various other media consulting, strategic planning, things like that. And I think some of the things I'm going to do I've yet to discover yet. So I'm open to a whole host of different opportunities.
And Media Review Network, you've been with them for how long?
I was with Media Review Network for 15 years,
Wow.
which is a long time, yeah. It was my first job when I came to Johannesburg. Just gotten married and I came to Joburg, and yeah, MRN approached me, and the fit was very good. One of the interesting things about when I joined MRN at the time, and I'm talking about 2003,
Okay.
is that that was a point in time when the concept of working remotely, working from home, I don't think it was a concept that many people knew about.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty glad to say that my colleagues at MRN at that time, I was interviewed by Iqbal Jasad, Feroz Osman, and Enver Suleiman. And I suggested to them that, listen, I've got internet. Do I really need to come into a physical office?
Yeah.
And I convinced them that I didn't.
So you were the pioneer in that.
Yeah,
well done
I
to you.
really do think that it was quite incredible and pretty brave of these gentlemen to think, okay, well, there's this lady sitting at home. And of course, things evolved and we developed, and alhamdulillah, it was a very, very successful partnership.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's talk about that partnership. We're going to talk about what happens next just now. But that call-in number, by the way, if you're keen to do just that, people are also watching us on Facebook Live and Instagram Live. So we got like all the bases covered here, right? The call-in number is 010-880-2396, 010-880-2396. Whether you are in Cape Town, Joburg, it doesn't really matter. Same number will do. WhatsApp voice notes for those that don't wish to call in. It's 083-709-2083, 083-709-2083. So you can also listen in, by the way, salammedia.com online, and on the app, tune in, and you'll find it all very, very clearly. Right? So let's talk about what did you actually do at MRN, or Media Review Network?
I was a researcher, and I focused. Interesting for some of your listeners to know. Right now, I'm kind of known as the Palestine activist.
Yes, yeah.
When I actually started at MRN, my work was specifically on Africa and Islamophobia.
Okay.
Those were the two areas that I focused on.
And interesting to look at the time span.
Yes.
So that was also pioneering work, Islamophobia at that stage.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think in terms of the specific areas that MRN focused on at the time, there were, very few, if any, other groups looking at those areas. So I was primarily a researcher, and I wrote a lot of analysis pieces. And those pieces were generally aimed at mainstream media. So I remember one of the very first things I was handed was an excellent book. And in Dr. Enver Suleiman's words, he says, this is a book that nobody wants to review, so you are going to get it because you've just started. It was a book about the assassination of Patrice Lumumba.
Okay, wow. Okay.
And I remember writing the review, and, now we use the term it went viral. right? So in 2003, it went viral in terms of media spaces because it appeared in diverse publications. So I had SACP Quarterly running that review, as well as the Sunday Independent. So those are pretty diverse readerships. So that was and I
how
wrote,
did you approach that? Keeping in mind that even if you ask people like now, I'm sure somebody's listening. Who's Patrice Lumumba, and why is he significant? So maybe just tell us, but also tell us why.
Yeah.
How then did you package the story to appeal to people who would understand, say the Congo or Belgium and all those connections, and of course colonization and an assassination.
Yeah. So Patrice Lumumba was essentially the liberation leader of the Congo. I would say he would be the equivalent of Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko.
Highly regarded,
highly respected. And essentially, he was assassinated before, he could come to power in a free Congo with the help of the Belgian authorities, who were the colonizers, the CIA, Britain, several other Western powers. It was a gruesome assassination. And if I remember correctly, much like Jamal Khashoggi, his body was also dismembered and dissolved in acid. So and the book was written by Ludo de Wit. It was a translated version that I had read. And that book was one of the first books to actually reveal the behind-the-scenes work, who exactly was involved. In terms of why it's important, of course, one of the things that Patrice Lumumba said is that history, Africa will one day have its own history. We will write our own history, and it will be a proud and dignified history. And so it's something that I think all of us are still working towards.
Absolutely. What sort of so that was your step into mainstream media?
Yeah,
because you can do research and great research, which is very academic work, but you do need to commercialize isn't it?
Of course. And just on what you're saying, one of the things that I have always been conflicted about, still am today, from a university student right up until today, is that I love writing. I love journalism. In fact, I went to Rhodes University specifically to study journalism. Of course, what happened after that, we plan and allow plans, of course. But I'm still conflicted between writing the who, what, where, when, why, the basic journalist article, and let's get into it a little bit deeper, the analysis. And I think I'm very fortunate in that when I ended up at MRN, I was able to indulge in both.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there are times when something did call for just that basic article that a journalist would write, or that a writer would need to submit.
You'd like the analysis when it's challenging,
yes,
because you analyzing and you're giving opinion within that analysis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I was able to within a book review, surprisingly, you're able to, of course, when you read, it's what you get out of that book, what analysis you're making. And so I suppose with that particular one, I was able to put in a lot of analysis and I think that is why maybe certain newspapers were perhaps surprised, and they all seemed
great.
to be.
But then you made the point that you've been regarded as Mrs. or Miss Palestine in terms of your advocacy. So at what stage did that shift happen from an MRN point of view?
I would think around 2010. Okay. I had consistently been writing about Palestine, but as I said, I had Islamophobia was one of the issues, and then the exploitation of African oil reserves, and I looked, of course, at America in Africa in terms of military interventions, but here and there I was kind of still writing the Palestine stuff. Sometime in 2010, Dr. Feroz Osman approached me with what he had envisaged to be a publication that would help people understand exactly what the occupation is all about. And of course, as with most things, they evolve and they change. And so Feroz and I collaborated, and of course the result was Why Israel. So that book took almost 4 years maybe to put together in terms of research and layout and producing the book. And I think from there, because the book itself has been so often as the co-author, it's now inseparable from me. And that's where the Palestine advocacy grew and grew.
And let me tell you, and that's precisely why I decided to bring the book here, because I said I need to get you to sign this book, okay? Which does tell you that in essence that I myself had sort of made the link, between Suraya Dadoo, besides Media Review Network, between that and this particular book, because it's been seminal. If people don't know a thing about the whole issue and the problems around Israel and Palestine, they would need to read that. Right?
What's nice about the book is that it's actually spawned other projects. Because I think we don't want to just sort of, okay, here's the book and we're happy with producing it. So as a result of that book, since it was released at the end of 2013, I've done loads of educational workshops, specifically with young people, university, high school.
As a direct result of this?
Yes.
Okay.
And it really was an attempt to, let's be honest, Ashraf, that book is pretty heavy when you just picked it up.
Well, physically heavy.
Picked it up,
yes,
yeah, that was quite a workout. So a lot of young people perhaps might feel, well, right. A lot of, which is one of the great things about media, that people can constantly keep in touch with you. I get a lot of feedback from people saying, now when I watch the news, I'm able to reflect on some of the things that you've said, or I look at things with different eyes, or I start asking questions. Is the main sort of feedback that I get. And one of the really nice things about Why Israel, which is why I feel personally I've hit the mark on it, is that I get positive feedback from really different people. So for instance, the other day it was a PhD student from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. But then on another day I got really good feedback. I would say a housewife, but I mean it. It's somebody that is just at home reading. She's not academic in that sense, and she said, "But I've learned so much."
Okay.
So I think when you're able to connect with such varying people, I think in a large part I've kind of succeeded.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on that in terms of what's the future of Palestine / Israel. My guest, Suraya Dadoo, as you've heard, she's co-authored the book called Why Israel, and there's a question mark at the end of that particular statement, why Israel, but also has been with Media Review Network for a long, long time, a decade and a half at least, but now an independent writer, researcher. I would take in a whole lot more. Now, if you wish to engage with her, that's absolutely fine. 010-880-2396. I want to ask her about solutions to Israel. Perhaps you have it as well. 083-709-2083. If you wish to send us a WhatsApp comment or a note, that's welcome as well. Okay, more from Suraya Dadoo right after this.
It's 4 a.m., study time, 5 chapters, then it's off to work, 2 taxis, 2 hours, and then an 8-hour workday. 5 o'clock, and it's time for my night job, because I want to be more than just good, but I need that extra charge to be great. Take Turbovite, containing not only ginkgo, but also other active ingredients that can assist with mental alertness, concentration, and the physical energy you need to push for greatness. So don't be good, be great. Turbovite. Turbocharge your life.
Add a sprinkling of sparkles to your magical parties and special occasions at the Sprinkles and Sparkles Party Shop. You'll want it all, from colorful and fun party supplies and decorations, a range of baking ingredients and tools, a variety of packaging from gift bags to meat bags, foil and polystyrene containers, colorful and elegant serviettes from disposable wet wipes to intimate candles, as well as a brand new range of glassware and bakeware, just unpacked, and of course a stunning range of wedding accessories just for you. Wholesale packaging available at request. Sprinkles and Sparkles Party Shop. There ain't nothing ordinary about it. Shop with us at 431 Inanda Road, Parlour. Contact number 031 577 0604.
Trading hours this Ramadan, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Follow us on Instagram at Sprink and Spark for all those great specials.
The Islamic Dawah movement of Southern Africa is constantly striving for the upliftment of humanity. To this day, the IDM has built scores of masjids, boreholes, and classrooms, has translated and distributed thousands of Qur'ans and Islamic literature, feeds over 700 madrasa children from disadvantaged communities daily, and conducts various skills and educational classes like sewing and computer literacy. Be a part of the Islamic Dawah movement. Donate your zakat Lillah and Sadaqah and earn Sadaqah Jariyah. Call IDM on 031 304 6883. IDM, your partner in Dawah.
Maxwell Flooring, specialists in hotel overruns, masjid musallas, and job lot wall-to-wall carpets. We also fit laminate wood flooring, vinyl flooring, and AstroTurf. Maxwell Flooring is dedicated to providing top-quality service. Visit Maxwell Flooring at Matthews Mayiwa Road, Durban. 5100. Maxwell Flooring.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 942. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
News, reviews, interviews, and so much more. This is the Ashraf Garda Show, 2 to 4 p.m. live, exclusive on Salam Media, Voice of the Cape FM, Sirius FM, and One Nation FM.
So Suraya Dadoo is with me. She's co-authored the book called Why Israel, which is quite old, but a book that you absolutely do need to read. But now she's an independent writer, having been with the Media Review Network for a good 15 years or so. Just very quickly, you mentioned you intend doing another version of this book.
Yes. So I'm actually working on a much shorter, smaller, more condensed. Yeah, exactly. But it is in Why Israel, but packaged radically differently. So it incorporates elements of media, something like hip hop, things you didn't know about Suraya. I'm a huge fan.
Now we know, right?
A lot of first-hand accounts from Palestinians. So in short, it is the book that my 15-year-old daughter would pick up. Or, the sort of a person who just wants things explained very basically. But
so soundbite version.
Soundbite version, but I'm not skimping on analysis and quality. I mean, good knowledge.
Yeah. When would that book get launched?
Inshallah, by the middle of next year. It's still being
so
laid out.
A year away from now. Give me your soundbite analysis, and I'll allow you maybe 3 minutes, okay? What's the issue with Israel-Palestine?
The issue is that when people talk about the peace process, we think it's South Africa-style CODESA, two parties coming together as equals and both sides making compromises so that we can move forward in terms of peace and justice. And what happens? Israel tells the Palestinians that the conditions are and what they must accept. And the United States is from being an honest broker and then occupation. So that really is the problem, that Israel tells the Palestinians, Israel doesn't make any compromises. And for the peace process is 25 years. So as long as you don't ever get into trouble, there are no consequences for your behavior. You will continue. And that's exactly what Israel has been enjoying.
But can we say, let's just make the assumption that Israel believes they're right, okay? And the Palestinians believe they're right. But there's a problem. I mean, I think even those that believe they're right, they all would agree that this position is untenable. It cannot continue the way it is. None of those people, whichever faiths they follow, they're not at peace with each other. It's completely unnatural. You don't want that to happen in your lives. But can we therefore say that the path to soliciting justice in that region, a lasting justice for everybody to move on, right, is being blocked by the Americans? Meaning if you remove the American equation as this big brother looking after and allowing the younger brother to do what they want, right, then the scenario could change dramatically.
Yeah, I do believe that the United States is a major obstacle to peace. What I like about Donald Trump is that he's pretty open and honest about it. Barack Obama things, but he did it. He was such a charming orator. The coolest guy on the planet. And so he got away with a lot of it. He escaped a lot of condemnation. Donald Trump is open and he says it bluntly. So America's always been doing this. It's just been cloaked by a very charming
How does the
person.
world then change the status quo with regard to America to ensure that the status quo with regard to Palestine, Israel, is in fact changed?
Unfortunately, I think as long as the U.S. continues to play and just going back to what you said about, that the occupation needs to end so that everybody can live in peace and justice. Two words often do not feature in discussions about Israel-Palestine, whether it's in mainstream media or any kind of media, and that is international law. We really need to ensure that everything is in terms of international law. What the Palestinians, you said, what if the Israelis believe they're right and the Palestinians believe they're right?
What's the guideline, isn't it?
The Palestinians, what they are asking for, everything is in terms of international law. The right to return to their homes, East Jerusalem as the capital, the borders along a 1967 state. So those are all in terms of international law. And I think, simply put, if we can abide by international law, the occupation should end.
And to put it this way, that so they consistent with their demands are consistent with international law, and those demands are being vetoed at the mother body, which is the United Nations, on the basis of the U.S. vetoing just about every major resolution that is thrown at them, isn't it?
Yes, I think, with the exception of a Security Council resolution from 2016, which condemned settlements, and which I think Barack Obama kind of abstained on that because it was a parting shot. It was almost the very last act of his presidency. America has protected Israel and ensured that it does not suffer any consequences. And as long as you have to use a slang, as long as you have a backstop like that, you're almost untouchable.
Yeah. What about the Palestinians? So we'll talk about protests in a second, but there's been an increased concern around the role of Hamas and whoever runs the Palestinian Authority, meaning can't these guys ever get together in a way, ironically, that a very disunited ANC managed to plug themselves together for the bigger goal of delivering freedom. They're not the only ones. We know there were other parties like the PAC, etc., but they managed to see there's a bigger picture. There's a sense that Palestinian, they show a very disappointing lack of
100%. They are separated, divided, physically, politically, and I think in terms of divide and conquer, Israel has succeeded on that. Even as a solidarity movement, whether we're solidarity activists in South Africa or Australia or America, in the Middle East, Kenya, wherever, we can only support the Palestinians, up to a certain point. But what the solidarity movement needs from the Palestinians is for them to speak in one voice with a united message. Because as we know, the rallying cry during our own struggle was a people united can never be defeated.
And like a simple call like end apartheid, it's easily amplified. We understand it.
Absolutely. Right? And Palestinian reconciliation is absolutely essential if they are to put any meaningful pressure on Israel. And my own sense is that what Israel fears more than any Hamas rocket or any suicide bomber is a united Palestinian political leadership speaking in one clear voice at that negotiating table.
Which they don't have now. So that's ironic. That's a battlefield. That's not the physical battlefield, but that's the more important one.
Yes, absolutely. Palestinian reconciliation is absolutely essential here.
Okay, I want to ask quickly about the issue of protest. So BDS comes to mind. Who are you talking about when you're saying therefore protest is important? Protest, boycott, maybe, I don't know.
The worldwide boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, which is the Palestinian-led call to boycott Israel from 2005. So when I talk about the BDS movement, I mean, I'm speaking about the one headquartered in Ramallah, led by Palestinians, called for by Palestinians.
Is that making an impact?
I believe it is. I mean, I'll use the weekend. During the weekend, Israel hosted the Eurovision.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
And it was a bit of a headache, Madonna decides to even displaying the Palestinian flag is regarded as a problem for Israel. The Icelandic group decided to have, display Palestinian scarves. So, of course, as an apartheid state, I mean, we remember, you've got to prepare for what kind of disruption are we going to have. There's going to be protests. And, Israel keeps saying that the boycott isn't hurting Israel. But then it develops an entire ministry devoted to the fight against BDS.
Which is what you would do when you think there's trouble there, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating insights. You need to read, if nothing else, also just Google Suraya Dadoo. You'll pick up a whole range of issues and great insights on the issue between Palestine and Israel and the problems and the solutions there. More to come from, I want to Saudi Arabia and the problems there on the Ashraf Garda show right after this.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Alhamdulillah, we are finally free of riba. It smells lovely.
Yeah, with Yakin I managed to stop all the riba, Hajo. This insurance price is going up again.
Oh, we are not free of riba, Babu. You need to stop the insurance.
We have to have insurance, Hajo. You know how bad it is with all the crime and the accidents.
Have a little yakin now, Babu.
Yeah, man, I do have a little yakin. But I wish there was a way to leave all these riba insurance companies, man. There's so much riba.
Babu, I can't handle this. The stench. It stinks.
Is that my underarms?
No, the riba stinks. Please find a way to stop this riba insurance, Babu.
Leaving riba insurance is easier than you think. Call Amana IFS for all your personal and commercial takaful needs. 0861 786 393. Amana, leave riba for good. Amana IFS is a registered financial services provider.
Tens of thousands of Syrians, Burmese, Rohingyans, Palestinians and Yemenis refugees remain destitute.
Our ulama will join our team abroad soon to assist the refugees in their time of need. Donate your zakah now to Gift of the Needy, Standard Bank account number 272327654 or donate online at giftoftheneedy.com. Contact us on 031 271 3102. Gift of the Needy, bringing ease to those in need.
DoozyMed Medicine Depot Retail Pharmacy and Emergency Medical Depot. Conveniently situated in the DoozyMed Medical Center, Corner Burger and Bosser Street, Pietermaritzburg. We provide safe, affordable and convenient medical facilities. Open till 10 p.m. every day of the year. We have a full house clinic that operates from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., which is run by a qualified sister. The clinic offers immunization, vaccination, wellness, general consultation, and more. Call DoozyMed Medicine Depot on 033 3421 DoozyMed Medicine Depot, your pharmacy of choice.
Feeding souls this Ramadan. Africa Muslims Agency local Ramadan feeding is undertaken by partnering to ensure reach to the most deserving throughout the country. Sponsor a food hamper at 800 Rand per family or an iftar sahur meal box at 80 Rand per box. We collect zakah, fidya, kafara and fitra. Contact AMA now on 011 834 8685. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
إلا الله لا إله إلا الله.
The Ashraf Garda Show, live and exclusive on Salam Media, Voice of the Cape FM, Sirius FM, and One Nation FM.
Talking to Suraya Dadoo about many things, Israel, Saudi Arabia coming up next. She's featured in the Champion People feature. As a comment, Brother Ashraf, international law, Salam rather, has no bearing on crimes committed by Zionist apartheid Israel. South Africa, we need to have the support of apartheid criminalized in South African law. Please, Suraya, what's your opinion on that issue? Can you just comment on that very quickly?
Not exactly sure
what's meant by that, yeah.
What the person's asking, but I mean, for me, I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestine. I really am pro-international law. And I think we need to be consistent about that across all countries.
Okay. I think the point made is that international law is inconsistent, perhaps,
yes.
and I'm paraphrasing
yes.
here, and therefore we need to disregard it because
yes.
they're very selective.
I think, well, that speaks to a larger issue of, I'll just use the International Criminal Court as an example, that clearly not all countries are equal before international law. Seems to be, it's a lot harder to get accountability from European countries, America and others. So, yeah, I do agree then that there is an inconsistency in applying international law to different governments.
So the law is
that
fine.
is the problem.
It's the application of the law. Okay, hopefully you've got that. Yeah. Let's talk about, so if there's one homeland that we reminisce about, which is Palestine, the other one is what they call the Hijaz, that big land in Arabia, which houses Makkah and Medina. What's your take on what's going on in Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia does not represent Islam in the same way that we would say Israel does not represent Judaism. So for me, those two countries very much go together, Israel and Saudi Arabia.
So ironic, both are supposed to be custodians of their faith.
Okay. But they are in fact distorting their faith. And
all right,
I think
why is Saudi Arabia distorting its faith? Give me some...
Well, I think domestically, first of all, everybody's pretty, should be pretty clear on what Saudi Arabia's human rights violations are. And a whole range of them, from women to the press to, basic civil liberties. There's constant reports of beheadings, executions, very much not in line with the spirit or the law of Islam. And I think in that sense, I mean, that Saudi Arabia is already like a problematic country, just on its own human rights conduct within its own borders. And then in the last 5 years, of course, Saudi Arabia, which is the Middle East's most wealthiest country, is leading a bombing campaign against Yemen. Very conservative estimate is that about people have been killed in Yemen. Wow. It is the world's worst humanitarian disaster. That Saudi-led blockade has led to the worst cholera epidemic in living memory. So these are pretty serious things
and repercussions, international law repercussions on that.
Again, I mean, we talk about not all countries being equal. Clearly, Saudi Arabia has friends in high places.
Can I say America once again?
Of course. And very strategically, Saudi Arabia is, of course, an ally of Israel, of the United States, of Great Britain as well.
Change there. Is it like almost ditto?
It is. I think, again, I mean, Saudi Arabia, of course, has oil, which the world needs, as do many of the human rights violators in the Middle East. And I think there's a whole range of geopolitics and economics at play there. And it's, as I said, Saudi Arabia is not representative at all of Islam. Certainly the Islam that is in the Quran and that is in the teachings and the conduct of the Prophet Muhammad.
And we leave it at that for people to reflect on in terms of what they need to be doing next around this one. Yeah, there's a voice note. Let me see if we can do that right now.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Fatima from Rondebosch, East Cape Town. Israel only wants the land, which they almost have all of, and as long as they're paying America, they will end up with it. They will end up
Okay, I think that thing got cut off, and there was some sound in the background, which is probably me talking from an earlier conversation at that time. Let's move on to other things, because I don't want to forget this. You spoke about where to next for you. Okay, so why then did you choose to move away from Media Review Network and effectively go independent?
Well, I was presented with various opportunities, and I think 15 years is a long time. But I think those 15 years at MRN, obviously in that time, I developed a lot of the skills and the abilities and learned a lot, to make me confident enough to say, you know what, I want to grab hold of these opportunities, and I think I'm good enough to do it. And that's kind of why I went solo. And of course, being an independent writer, as you yourself know, Ashraf, because you're now suddenly solo as well, is that there's this wonderful freedom that you have, but then there's also a scary part where you're worried about exactly what the next project is, and so it's a bit of a balancing act, but it's something that I am loving now.
And what is the plan? I mean, you're going to write where, write what?
So what a lot of my, I will still continue to write in South Africa, but I am also assisting people to hone their media advocacy skills, not just in South Africa. I'm pretty happy to say that my work is now going very much beyond the borders of South Africa. And a lot of it is to teach people that rather than simply complain about media, if a newspaper runs an article that runs counter to what you believe, or it's anti whatever position it is that you have, you need to responsibly engage with that media, provide quality alternative content, because you cannot simply say X media is biased without providing them quality content, alternatives that they could
and that's
run.
and that's the space you want to play.
Yes, very, very much so. And it's going quite well now. I'm sort of working in countries, uncharted territory, and not just on Palestine, Israel, but on a couple of different issues. And it's essentially breaking new ground, which in itself is pretty exciting. I'm also dealing a lot with books and with other authors, given my own success at promoting why Israel and that. So, and even there, I mean, one of the really nice things about being in the media space and the social media space right now in 2019 is that the smartphone has completely changed the way we work. Yeah. So one of my current projects, just to give you an idea of why it is that I'm so excited. So I'm currently involved in a project. The author is in Seattle. His agent is in Rome. The publisher is in London. The other stakeholders are between Istanbul and Lebanon.
Yeah, wow.
I'm coordinating from Johannesburg, and the project will physically take place in Nairobi.
Okay.
So
a woman of the world, I mean, literally, and that's exactly the way to go. So this an extension of working remotely as you had first pitched to MRN all those years ago.
I've just taken it to a whole new level now.
Just a way of doing that much. Absolutely right. There's a couple of comments about Saudi economics, and I think we've touched on that, and I don't want to go to that right now. So okay, that's very exciting. Well, I'll tell you what. Feel free to tag me on social media, Twitter maybe more so than even Facebook, but both are fine, with some of your pieces, okay? Future, I would certainly gladly share that. Let's talk about a couple of things. You did journalism you decided you wanted to do that, right? Why? What informed that decision?
So, I mean, I've always had a passion for writing. This is from high school. It was probably something that was honed by my late dad, because his thing was, don't go to sleep without reading the newspaper, firstly, which was the thing back then. And, he always encouraged me, if you are not happy with something, don't complain to me. I can't change it. Write a letter to the people who are in a position to change it.
Fantastic advice, yeah.
So that is kind of where my basis for writing came from. And so it was letters to the editor, and it kind of started from there. So I always had a passion for writing, and I decided at the end of matric year I'd like to go into journalism. And at that time, Rhodes University, of course, was the place to study journalism. I completed my first year, and I don't know. As I said before, it was something I was conflicted with. Do I really want to do the meaty substance of analysis and research, or do I just want to do journalism? And I was kind of caught between sociology and journalism. Sociology won at the end, and but the passion, that natural passion for writing and getting your message across, in the best way that you can.
Well, maybe, maybe, just as well you didn't do the journalism, specifically sociology, has sort of helped you in terms of understanding cultures and people.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Sets you up for more in-depth analysis, maybe where someone like myself maybe also made the point that you actually were not, if I can be literal about it, not born Muslim, but Islam came to you, or you came to Islam at the age of 18. What happened there?
So I'd have to say it was a doctor's waiting room that was the sort of catalyst here.
Right.
When I was a teenager, we had a Muslim doctor, and of course, back then there was no appointments. You just went in, you took a number, and you waited your turn.
And home was where? Which place?
Durban.
Durban.
I
Okay.
am
Got
originally
that.
from
All right.
Durban.
Mhm.
And this doctor had the Prophet's last sermon on his wall, and every time I went in there, I read this thing. I was like, okay. And, sometimes you read something continuously, but it's only like at one moment you get that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And so I was reading the sermon, which talked about, all people are equal. Whites are not superior over blacks. Blacks not. You only differentiate in terms of piety and good action.
Yeah.
And it spoke a lot about rights and responsibilities. And of course, at the same time, I had my own political conscientization that was going on. I came from a fairly political family. And so the two kind of merged. And I realized, man, never mind the Freedom Charter. I mean,
this is the
this
charter.
is talking of 1400 years ago about equal human rights. And I think my initial interest in Islam was sparked by that.
Okay.
Thereafter, I asked lots of questions, did my own sort of reading, and eventually I became Muslim when I left school.
Well, interestingly, I posted on Fasia Hassan's page yesterday, because she's taken the Quran as she gets inducted at Gauteng, that's the ultimate constitution. And it's something I'll pick up when I talk to her tomorrow, because she's going to be in the hot seat. So looking forward to that, of course. And she's has strong views on Palestine as well. We know that, right? We've come to almost about the end. Some very quick questions. Let's see how much time we've got. 1, 2, 3 books you can recommend?
Unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of my work is that I don't read for pleasure anymore.
Yeah.
But the kinds of books that I do like reading, I'd have to say that I've derived a lot of benefit from, would be something like Kayat Langa's To Quote Myself.
A great title, isn't it?
I love it. and I love books like that where you kind of, it's ordinary people who did extraordinary things by working hard, getting down to it, and grabbing opportunities.
Okay, so To Quote Myself.
Yes,
another one?
To quote myself. The other books that I read are all Palestine-Israel related. Some of them are pretty heavy.
All right.
But yeah.
Okay,
like
a quote that really inspires you?
It's, usually when I give this quote, it's the one that my daughter has in her bedroom. Great literary quote. Yeah. Say what you mean and mean what you say, because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. It's Dr. Seuss.
Absolutely brilliant one. So somebody on social media you recommend that we must follow?
They aren't necessarily individuals, but they're accounts that I think will give you a good perspective on Africa. At Africa as a country, I love them.
Okay.
Like mind-blowing analysis and very simple analysis, so it's not high-end academia stuff. African arguments. And Africans Rising, which is a Pan-African group looking to create a better Africa.
I've certainly followed what they do. And of course, that's very relevant with Africa Day coming up on the 25th of May. That's this week Saturday. So you're the president of South Africa. Your biggest priority would be what?
Education. Education. I've got to say, you want to build a champion nation, it needs to be...
You've got to sort that out,
yes.
Who was your hero then and your hero now?
My hero back then isn't somebody famous, but I have to say it was my history teacher from, then it was called Standard 7.
Okay.
He just made me love history. And I've got to say, a lot of what I do now is probably can be traced back.
Probably had the same history teacher. But anyway, let's go on. Right. And now?
My hero now. Again, it's not a specific person, but interesting that you mentioned someone like Fasiya Hassan. I would say it's the Fees Must Fall movement.
As the whole concept in terms of what they did.
Because those young people had the guts to do what my generation should have done 20 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, and the last thing, the legacy that Suraya Dadoo herself would like to leave?
That I help somebody be a better person.
As simple as that. Understated, but so profound at the same time. Suraya, your time's up, by the way, which means you need to get to more freelance, independent work because you've got lots of other work to do. But it's been fascinating chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, we should do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Get into a mind. There's a podcast coming up later on. We're going to join Voice of the Cape now for the news at 3.